I was heading into town the other day, aware that the traffic lights might hold me up. The junction at the end of the Esplanade beside the supermarket is sometimes quite tedious. The changes seem to take a long time and the lanes are narrow. However, hey, happy days, there were no cars. And I thought I could just drive through, or at least I'll get the next change. And then I realised there were no traffic lights. The lights were dead, and I looked at all the other traffic lights that I could see, and cars were similarly obviously hesitating as I was. Is it safe to go? Is the other person going to go? Using old-fashioned skills from the past, skills of judging distance, road position, speed, driver intentions, signals, all of that. And guess what? Everybody was crossing out over the junction. No cars were hit. No individuals were hurt. I laughed as I thought how easy it was when the traffic lights were dead. And I was reminded of something very similar a couple of years ago when new traffic lights just round the corner from where we used to stay replaced a roundabout. And the new lights caused huge delays. Still do. Somebody thought it was an improvement. But for 2 weeks, some time back, the lights were out. And there were no delays, there were no accidents, and everybody acted responsibly. Maybe just suddenly made to be more alert, because when you approach traffic lights normally, you only think about the colour of the light. You don't assess the road conditions and other traffic very much. I think it was funny that some years ago, 2008, a German town near Hanover made a radical experiment. They decided to abolish all their road signs, not just the lights, but including the lights, and they wanted to see how traffic would flow. Well, after a month, the town, which had normally experienced serious accidents every week, lots of bumps and scrapes and incidents, there were none. Not one. Now, I don't know how that's continued, but it was a very interesting experiment. The town was called Bumped. Really, that was the name of the town. But there's something about treating people as adults. We've got a First Minister who says she wants to treat the Scottish public like adults. And I applaud that sentiment. It's nice to be given that affirmation, and maybe people will measure up, step up. But quite clearly some people don't. And we've had examples of really quite irresponsible behaviour in parks or on beaches or public demonstrations or whatever, and not thinking of the wider picture, not thinking even of their own health. We need to be encouraged to be responsible, to think what we can do to look after ourselves and also to contribute to the well-being of the greater good of society. That needs to be encouraged in terms of the individual conscience, ideas of right and wrong, not just a rule for every incident, but some kind of principle that can be the basis of how we think and how we work, and give guidance for the application of it in every situation in life, whether it's belief in moral values, in taking responsibility for ourselves, in looking at the future, looking longer term, and not just a self-determined or self-centred personal interest for the present. These are bigger issues, and we need to encourage that, surely. About 400 AD, in North Africa, a town called Hippo, there was a man who became very famous. He was the Bishop of Hippo, and we know him as Augustine, known in some traditions as Saint Augustine. He wrote widely and contributed greatly in theology and philosophy. One of the things he wrote is often quoted about what it is as the principle that might be applied for Christians. Love God and do as you will. Or love God is then do what you want kind of principle. Greatly misunderstood, of course. It can be applied as, well, I can do one thing, but believe one thing, but act differently. That's not what he meant. What he meant was, let's take the principle of loving God. If that is in our heart, then everything else that we do, we will use that to judge it by. That will be our motive, our guide. That will shape our thinking, our morals, and our faith. And thereby, if that is the basis of it, then everything else will flow naturally and will be congruent and will fit comfortably together in a coordinated and integrated life. Let love be your guide in all that we do is there in Scripture. And that phrase to love God and do as you will really does apply, but it's risky.